last week doesn't count anymore. It's time to win this week, so let's try to do that.
And welcome to Pocket Protection in association with TDR, brought to you by Bet99 Sportsbook. Every game starts at Bet99.com. We are responsible gambling. I'm Ryan Doyle. That is Steve Budin. We've already talked about how well Steve did last weekend when it came to the NFC games. It doesn't feel like I feel like I'm telling the same narrative. Steve did really well when it came to the AFC games last weekend as well. Steve, you cleaned up. What can I say? You cleaned up. You talked about the demise of my Buffalo Bills. Where do you want to take it from here?
No, I think every dog has its day, and even a broken clock is right twice a day. So, look, I own up to the losses, and I am going to celebrate the wins. I am a true gambler who has been gambling for the better of 35 years. So, I'm not going to shy away from taking a little victory lap here and saying it was a good week. But now we get to this week, and you know what? Last week doesn't count anymore. It's time to win this week, so let's try to do that.
All right, but here's what he'll make this point, though. If you don't look at what happened last week, you could get caught off guard. So there are lessons to be learned. Let me start with anything that we might have learned from Jacksonville and Kansas City last week. A pretty dominant performance from the Chiefs holding the Jags at bay, despite the fact that Jacksonville, shot themselves in the foot a couple of times with some turnovers.
Yeah, so the Chiefs are headed back to the AFC Championship thanks to that 27-20 victory over what I would call the upstart, Jaguars. For KC, look, here's the takeaway. Mahomes' ankle is a legitimate concern. He briefly exited the game with an ankle injury in the second quarter, and I don't know if you saw it, he was visibly resistant to medical attention, He's a tough son of a bitch, and he fought through a noticeable limp to keep KC in front and seal the win. For the Jags, look, let me say this. They're the best team in Florida, and they're here to stay. Doug Peterson, great job. Just the second Jaguars playoff bid in the last 15 years. Coming back from 27 down to beat the Chargers proved that they had arrived. But actually, to me, and I wouldn't call it a bluff, keeping the Chiefs on their toes at Arrowhead proved to me that they're here to stay. So have a good season, have a good off season. That is Jacksonville. You deserve it. We'll see you next year. I'm looking forward to it.
They don't actually have to stay in Jacksonville, do they?
Listen, Jacksonville is the strip club capital of the world. It's not a bad place.
Oh my God! I remember
There's
being
more strip clubs than convenience stores in Jacksonville.
I wouldn't know because I was in there for the Jags-Bills playoff game. I think it was in 2014, if I'm not mistaken. And the Uber driver said to us, "This is the downtown. Don't come over the bridge at night. Stay in your hotel." So all I've ever seen of Jacksonville is the Ruth's Chris at the hotel across the river. I couldn't tell you what the rest of the city looks like.
Listen, the way the girls talk in Jacksonville, the strippers say, "We're going to get naked for true." I love that. I love that. They got that South.
It's a little down home. I like it. Let's talk a little bit about the Bills and the Bengals and what you made of that game before we dissect what's coming up this coming weekend.
Well, the Bengals routed the Bills, right? That's just what happened. For Cincinnati, look, Burrow in 3 seasons far exceeded Bills star quarterback Josh Allen on the big stage. 5-1 playoff record, second AFC title game. And look, Allen's the closest thing to Mahomes in terms of off-script playmaking. But to me, it's Burrow's vision coupled with Cincy's deep receiving core and physical defense that wound up reigning supreme. For the Bills, look, they're going to remain in the playoff conversation as long as Josh Allen's under the center. That's the bottom line. He does a little things off script, and sometimes he tries to do a little too much. That's just because he has to. He doesn't have the people around him to really lean on. He's not the problem. To me, Buffalo needs help with their ground game, and they need help in the secondary. Allen had no run game assistance against Cincy, and that was a big problem. Meanwhile, White and Poyer, they were both beaten deep before they exited the game with injuries. Bottom line, after a couple of years of flirting with a Super Bowl bid, it's time to do a little bit of a deeper reshuffling of talent in the Bills, because if they get a few more guys, they're going to be there.
So here's what I would say as a Bills fan. I'll leave the other game to you because I think you nailed it when it comes to the Jags, and they will be a team to be reckoned with going forward in the next couple of seasons. Peterson's on the right track there. I would simply say that, it might not be as much of a talent thing with the Buffalo Bills as it is a coaching thing. And I'm not pointing at the head coach, but I'm pointing at the offensive and defensive coordinators. If you had told me I was going to be sitting watching that game in the snow, Buffalo home playoff game, and they were going to come out flat, 3-and-out in their first drive. Josh Allen looked pedestrian, the run game non-existent, as you put it. The defense not much better, couldn't get a stop. How many first downs did the Bengals get? It was seemingly endless. It was like the old school buffets, like all you can eat shrimp. It was all you can eat first downs. I couldn't recognize this team. I think the Buffalo Bills' big problem, it's in the booth and on the sideline. It's the DC and Leslie Frazier, and of course our offensive coordinator as well, who I just do not think has replaced the head coach of the Giants all that well. I think Brian Daboll, so that's the name I was reaching for there. I just don't think they've been able to replace Brian Daboll all that well, and you can see it. The numbers might bear it out, but as a Bills fan in your gut, that's a different looking team.
No, and I tell you, listen, you watch this team all year long, so you're a real good judge of that. I just know they got some. It's not the quarterback position that they need to worry about. Whether it's better coordination, better strategizing, maybe giving other guys I don't know. I just know it's not the quarterback. That's not their problem. So they're going to have to focus on the other areas and fix those.
All right, when we come back, we are going to focus on two areas, the total in the AFC Conference Championship game and the side. Which side do we like between Cincinnati -2? Yeah, that's right, a road favorite here. Cincinnati -2 at Kansas City. We'll come back and tell you as Pocket Protection continues after this.
As a world champion, when I walked out of the tunnel, I knew I prepared to win. I still do today. Every game starts at Bet99.net.
Welcome to Bet99.net, Canada's home for all your favorite free-to-play casino games, slots, live dealer tables, and progressive jackpots, including Mega Moolah. At Bet99.net, you could be a winner today.
And welcome back to Pocket Protection in association with TDR, brought to you by Bet99 Sportsbook. Every game starts at Bet99.com. We are responsible gambling. I'm Ryan Doyle, Steve Budin alongside, or we're side by each. Nobody takes the lead role in this show. We're just two guys that like to talk.
Happy to be the Robin to your Batman any day, my friend. Any day.
I will be the Wonder Woman or Aquaman. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter is the point. Let's start off with the game. Of course, the AFC
like, yeah, we love Ryan.
Cincinnati -2 at Kansas City. The total is 47. Let's talk about that total at 47. Where do you see this game going? Over, under?
Look, if we had a healthy, quarterback in KC with Mahomes, this game's going way over because both of these teams, they can light it up like a Christmas tree. And I think Cincy is going to score and score often, and KC is going to have to score more to win. That being said, that usually plays like an over. But I'm just a little bit concerned, as most probably KC fans are, seeing that Mahomes isn't 100%. He does have the ankle problem. To what extent, we don't know. They're going to shoot it up with everything they got in that locker room. He'll be feeling no pain. We know that. But he's flirted with toe injuries and foot injuries and now ankle injuries his whole career. And when he's healthy, there is nobody better. He hasn't been healthy in a long time, not for the duration of a season. So it makes it hard for me to call the total here. However, I hate to watch a game like this and root against these teams to score. So I'm going to go with the over here anyway.
Yeah, I think Patrick Mahomes is going to put up some points, and I agree with you. I think the Bengals are going to put up some points. I still have concerns, and I did last week when it came to Jacksonville. I still have concerns about Kansas City's secondary getting any stops. I mean, if Buffalo's secondary couldn't stop Joe Burrow in the snow, what is this secondary going to look like? What is Joe Burrow going to look like against that secondary? So I think the Bengals do put up some points. I'm not as I'm not as hesitant or pessimistic about the Patrick Mahomes injury because I do think the wonders of modern medicine and that doctor from any given Sunday can pump up anybody's ankle and make anybody look fantastic, right?
As long as it's not the doctor from Cannonball Run, and I don't know if there's an audience who's old enough to remember who he was, but anyway.
You're going to have a side podcast to explain the reference. So I do like
it's like when I date a young girl and I say, like, remember the Jefferson? And she's like, who's that? Like, you know, like, so yeah, it happens all the time. Right. Walk into a restaurant. Mr. Budin, would you like a coloring book for your date? No, that's fine. Thank you.
George Jefferson, though, there's a character. All right, yeah, so I do like the total over 47. Let's talk about the side itself. Our last one before the Super Bowl begins. Cincinnati -2 at Kansas City. You're catching a road dog in an AFC Conference Championship. A bit of a rarity. You know, when you talk about the way the seeding system works, but KC isn't home here, even though they're the underdog at this point.
Yeah, I mean, here we go again with the Chiefs and the Bengals. This is like Duran Leonard. I mean, one more time. This will be their fourth meeting since last January. KC lost 34-31 late in 2021. Burrow outdueled Mahomes, 446 yards passing, 4 touchdown passes to Mahomes, 259 and 2 touchdowns. And that was no fluke. The Bengals then won the AFC title game at Arrowhead, 27-24 in OT. And that was thanks to a scrappy Bengals defense that kept the Mahomes offense without another touchdown after they fell behind 21-3 in that second quarter. Since he then did it again at home this past December 4th, winning 27-24 in a heart stopper as Burrow once again outplayed Mahomes, 286 yards passing, 2 touchdowns. Mahomes had 223, just 1 touchdown. But like I said earlier, and like we've been talking about, you know, all show, the big concern for the Chiefs backers is not so much that they lost each of those games outright as a favorite, but more that they lost those games with a healthy Mahomes, which he definitely isn't at the moment. The bottom line again, and remember, I got KC all the way. I've been talking about it all year long as the secret sauce, as the sleeping beauty. But I didn't expect Mahomes to get hurt. The bottom line again to me though, it's momentum. I'll say it again, it's momentum. Cincy has covered in 23 of their last 26 games since mid-December back in 2021. The Chiefs have covered only twice in 9 tries this season at Arrowhead. After watching what happened last week and across the last 13 months, does anyone really believe that the Bengals are going to be the least bit intimidated at the sight of the Chiefs? I don't. I'm betting Cincy.
Wow. This is 2 for 2 in this situation. I like it. We're on the same sides in both conference championship totals and nowhere near each other when it comes to predicting this game. I'm sorry. I've been listening to you all year talk about liking the Kansas City Chiefs. You've been saying it for weeks and weeks and weeks. I thought for sure you had been all over this, catching them as a dog. Are you kidding me? This game, the public loves Cincinnati so much. This game might get close to 3. If it gets to 2.5, I'll jump and take the 3 points and buy the half. I like Kansas City to win this game outright, and I like them obviously to cover that easy 3 spread and catch those easy free points that they're giving me. I think that's just a bonus play for me. I think Mahomes is going to be ripe and ready. And yes, the Bengals will put up a fight, and yes, the Bengals will score. But Patrick Mahomes will have the last laugh. You don't think for a second that game last year where he had to sit and watch Joe Burrow on his home field walk off and win the AFC Championship, you don't think that's been sticking with that kid all year? He's a fighter. We saw that last weekend where he had the ankle injury, where he basically had to be dragged off the field to get medical attention. There is no way in hell this guy is going to lose this football game. The Kansas City Chiefs are going to the Super Bowl. You heard it here with a guy with a massive losing record from last weekend. You heard it here from this guy first because I believe it's going to be Kansas City and Philadelphia in the Super Bowl matching up, and I think that's going to be an all-time classic, to be honest. You got 2 kind of wounded quarterbacks. Oh, it's going to be lovely.
And I think no matter what Super Bowl we wind up with this year, it's going to be one of the better Super Bowls that we've had in the last decade. Look, if you're right, I'm not so mad because I've got a very large all-the-way wager that I'm hoping to cash in. As a matter of fact, I only really needed to go one more week because God knows if it does, I'll be hedging. And that's something we talked about back in week 2 and 3.
And I think it's going to be Kansas City and the Philadelphia Eagles in the Super Bowl. It's going to be a great clash. You're going to have two quarterbacks kind of wounded playing against each other. Jalen Hurts trying to write his narrative. Patrick Mahomes trying to get back to the top of the mountain. And at the end of it all, Steve, you will have been right the whole time, but wrong this time around.
And I'm happy if that's the case. I've got a very sizable bet on it all the way for Kansas City, which I only have to really make till next week, because then I'm going to hedge something we talked about back in week 2 and week 3. When is it right to hedge? And at this point, if KC wins this week, I've already won. I'll take my money off the table. But I will say, no matter who wins in all of these games, we're going to have one of the best Super Bowls that we've had in the last decade.
Here to that. It's been one hell of a season, partner. Thank you.
Yes,
Lots
sir.
of fun. Pocket protection in association with TDR, brought to you by Bet99 Sportsbook. Every game starts at Bet99.com. We are responsible gambling.